We all know Marvel's heroes, right? The Avengers, the X-Men. But what if I told you there's a secret history lurking in the shadows of their universe? A connection to something much older, much darker. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the terrifying link between Marvel Comics and the mind-bending cosmic horror of H.P. Lovecraft.
Now, these aren't just cool, scary-sounding titles. They're trying to describe a being so huge, so alien, that its very presence makes reality bend and break. This is the kind of threat that doesn't just want to conquer you, it wants to erase you, to unmake everything you know. And believe me, this is just scratching the surface.
So it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? When you see some creature in a comic book with impossible shapes and way too many tentacles, where does an idea like that even come from? Well, the answer isn't always from a sci-fi lab or a distant galaxy. Sometimes it crawls out of a much older, much darker place in our own literature.
Okay, let's just dive right in. We have to start with the most obvious and, let's be honest, most spectacular clue: the giant, one-eyed, tentacled behemoth that has been Doctor Strange's personal nightmare for decades, the one and only Shuma-Gorath.
See, Shuma-Gorath isn't just some random monster of the week. Not even close. This thing is a fundamental threat to the entire Marvel cosmos. We're talking about a being that was ruling our planet when dinosaurs were still around, that has conquered countless realities. And the part that's really going to get you is that he's not alone. He's part of a group called the Many-Angled Ones. Just the name sounds wrong, doesn't it?
So to really get a handle on a creature like Shuma-Gorath, we actually have to step outside of the comics for a second. We need to look at the blueprint for this exact kind of horror. A blueprint that was drawn up almost 100 years ago by a writer named H.P. Lovecraft.
Lovecraft's whole deal wasn't about jump scares. It's not the fear that a monster is hiding in your closet. It's the bone-deep, soul-crushing dread you feel when you realize that humanity is just a meaningless little speck in a giant, uncaring universe. A universe filled with things so old and so powerful that we don't even register to them. You know, until we do.
Okay, so check this out. This slide is basically the perfect checklist. Ancient gods taking a nap for a few billion years? Check. Cursed books full of forbidden knowledge that'll make you go insane? Check. Beings with impossible shapes, tentacles, and get this, many angles? You better believe that's a check. Keep these themes in your head because we're about to see Marvel tick every single one of these boxes.
And here's the thing. This isn't just some fan theory someone cooked up online. Nope, this was all done on purpose, woven right into Marvel's DNA. And ground zero for this whole cosmic horror invasion was in the weird, psychedelic, and honestly pretty terrifying pages of the Doctor Strange comics back in the 1970s.
You can literally watch them build it, piece by piece. It wasn't an accident, it was a slow burn. It starts with little hints, like a group called the Undying Ones. Then, and this is the wild part, Marvel hires an actual Cthulhu Mythos writer, Gardner Fox, and he starts laying the groundwork. First, he introduces a servant creature who worships some big sleeping god, and then bam, the main event. They weren't hiding it, they were building up to the big reveal. But this whole Lovecraftian influence didn't just stop with Doctor Strange or one big tentacle monster. No, the idea became embedded in the very fabric of Marvel's magic. It all centered around a cursed book of its own, an artifact so evil it could give anything Lovecraft dreamed up a run for its money. So what Marvel did here was just brilliant. They didn't just borrow a monster, they borrowed the idea of the forbidden book. The Darkhold is, for all intents and purposes, Marvel's version of the Necronomicon. And just like its inspiration, it has an author, an ancient, incredibly malevolent elder god of chaos named Chthon. And trust me, this guy makes the mad Arab from the stories look like a perfectly stable individual. And Chthon wasn't just writing scary stories, he was creating real-life nightmares. The spells in that book are basically the source code for the supernatural in the Marvel Universe. You want to know where the first vampires came from? A bunch of sorcerers read from the Darkhold. The very first werewolf? Yep, that was Chthon's work too. This cosmic horror stuff isn't just floating out in space, it's right here on Earth. So, what happens when someone is foolish enough to try and unleash the full power of this book? Well, it's not subtle. It is a complete and total breakdown of reality. In one story, the Darkhold was read out loud for just a single day, and what they called a chaos cascade just ripped across the globe. Its power just hit randomly and without warning. Suddenly, huge pillars of fire were crashing down on the super-advanced nation of Wakanda.
The laws of physics just gave up.
as a literal tidal wave of blood came flooding through the streets of New York City.
And the entire planet started to come apart at the seams as the Atlantic Ocean itself began to boil. So yeah, this book isn't just dangerous. It's basically a planetary kill switch.
Now, this isn't all just ancient history or dusty magical lore. These Lovecraftian roots have grown and twisted into universe-spanning threats that plague Marvel's heroes right now on the biggest cosmic stage you can imagine.
Hey, remember that name from the beginning? The many-angled ones? Well, now we get the full terrifying picture. They are basically a whole species of cosmic horror. They live in that creepy, empty void between universes, and their entire purpose is to corrupt and devour realities. And their leader? You guessed it, Shuma-Gorath. So he's not just one monster, he's the king of an entire universe of them. And if you want to know what their ultimate goal looks like, you just have to look at the Cancerverse. I mean, seriously, what is more horrifying than a universe where death itself is dead, where life doesn't get to end, it just festers. It mutates into a grotesque, cancerous, immortal nightmare. That's what they want for our reality, an endless, screaming, undying agony. And this quote from a twisted version of Iron Man just absolutely nails it. This isn't about conquest or destruction in the way we think about it. It's about feeding. They're a cosmic disease, and our reality is just the next healthy host they want to infect and consume. Which kind of leaves us with this one final chilling thought. You know, in a universe full of heroes who can literally punch planets in half, what do you do with a threat you can't punch? You cannot smart a concept. How do you possibly defeat an enemy whose very existence proves how insignificant you are? Maybe the true cosmic horror in the Marvel universe isn't something you can ever beat, but a truth